Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Still tired from a long trip back from Germany. I had 3 hours in a train, 2 hours waiting at the airport, 11-hour flight back. But thankfully I'm back and got some Houston food back in me, get a reacquainted with the nightlife here. Had a night out tonight with Angela, who I've been sharing in little excerpts that she would be returning to the channel and doing some videos. Well, today I brought her over to 3MA Audio and had her do a wife acceptance factor opinion on all the gear. You're not going to want to miss that. It's pretty funny. But that's far down the road because I got so much content I'm backed up on. In addition to these wrap-up videos, I do music clips. And I want to give a shout-out to one of my subscribers, James. Every day he was religiously Shazamming and getting all the music clips that you hear in my videos in a playlist, and I'm going to share that with you like I normally do after every show coverage. Also, you know I don't hit you up for likes and subscribes and all that desperate stuff, but you probably are going to want to subscribe if you haven't already, because what's coming is the Inakustik tour. 3 hours of footage, and I was running out of footage, hard drive space on my phone. I didn't expect to have this much footage from a cable maker's manufacturing facility. And it's because that they do much more than just cables. But even in the cable realm alone, you are not going to believe the levels that they go to for precision of construction, safety, reliability, quality control, and the science behind it, and some experiments we did, in addition to listening tests. And of course, they do power conditioners like I have done videos on. Plus, they do recordings. They actually master their own music where they can be at the recording and now hear the results on their gear. And they help distribute gear that is great for cost no object, as you'll hear in their reference room, but also brands that provide budget gear like Primaire and Audio Vector have stuff lower in the range that you can get amazing systems at a budget price point. And in fact, that'll probably be the first thing I'll say for budget best of for this show. That Inakustik room with the Primaire and the Audio Vector speaker, killer. That definitely was probably my favorite. The only other one close, and probably neck and neck depending on how you value certain things and aesthetics, is the Cabas, the Rialto. Still killer. One probably has an advantage in terms of if you like a traditional floor standing setup. The Primaire electronics are really cool. The floor standing Audio Vector's cool. If you like that sphere look of the Cabas and high dB, being able to play high decibels, jam out, that one's it. Has a little bit crispier mid-range, crispier treble than the Audio Vector, but depending on they're both amazing. You will be very happy with either one of those. Those were easily my best budget gear. And I want to go ahead and tell you right now, this is probably going to be a long video. I've got notes right here. I got to take because I could keep up. It was such a long show, so many brands to mention. So I'll break it up into chapters, but I'll probably do chapters that which brands did the best in terms of putting it all together, addressing the room, the aesthetics, the experience. I'll do ones that did great, even despite the poor rooms that they had, still showed a lot of potential with their gear. Then I'll talk about some that were new revelations to me that I hadn't even expected, never heard of before, or no experience with yet. I'll put that in another bucket. Then I'll have a bucket probably at the end for my very favorite, and also any rooms that were disappointing. Okay, so look for those chapters if you can't watch the whole thing through. But wanted to start with the biggest award I wanted to give, though, was to you guys. You guys have made this so much fun. This is a very costly thing to go over there and do these shows. So I'm doing it out of passion. And the reward for me is obviously meeting a lot of you guys and people in the industry. I've made some great friends in the industry now. People, especially at the Inakustik facility, you're going to love those guys. Did you see one of my shorts that I uploaded with Holger with Inakustik? It was hilarious. These guys are geniuses, but also hilarious. If I lived in Germany, I'd be having beers with them every night. Great guys. And then, like I said, subscribers. I want to give you guys props because I had several manufacturers. In fact, I had one pull me out the hallway into his room. But they were saying, we really like your channel. And even better, when people that watch your channel call us, they are always so educated. They know how to set up a room. They know the importance of things, and that's the kind of the customers that they like to deal with, and so much more sophisticated. And so kudos to you guys, get an award. And that's why I like the Google algorithm to find you guys. And I don't really, pimp likes and subscribe. It comes across desperate anyway. You don't see anybody respectable doing that in any other endeavor. So, but kudos to you guys. You're really making it the channel fun for me, and the investment that I'm doing well worth it. So I wanted to give you guys an award first. But let's talk about some rooms that blew me away. And I can't go any further than right in their backyard. MBL just hit it out the park. I mean, as it is, every time they do a room at any show, they transform an environment that you don't know you're at a show. It could be a high-end dealer. You would not know you're at a show, and that anything, even at CEDIA, they were able to create a room within a big conference area. So they're always top-notch in creating a room, an environment that can accentuate the sound of their gear. But they went even further this time. They were in their backyard. They had one of every piece of equipment that they sell in there. You never see that with MBL. And then they had Jürgen, the lead designer, give a talk, and I have 4 parts on that, talking about the MBL design and what goes into that and what they value and why they do what they do. It's not just for aesthetics and gimmicky, as you'll hear also with other brands like Aries-Arat, but there's a definitive reason. You're going to want to watch those and understand MBL a lot better. But then they went even another step further and had live musicians play in the room, and then played some music, Baroque music and classical music behind it, and as a comparison. And let me tell you, if you're in cost no object budget and you like classical music, you shouldn't look much further than MBL. And certainly that should be near the top of your audition list. It's just amazing sounding, especially with classical music. And then even on top of that, that night out that they had, invite only, but it was so huge group. And I had Greg Barron with United Home Audio, Andrew Quint with Absolute Sound, Edgar, the Princeton Professor, David Chesky, one of the lead dealers in Europe of MBLs, 2 owners of MBL Extremes. It was an amazing table we were at. Just a phenomenal night with live music, great food, amazing venue. You want a high-end experience? You just can't get any better than MBL. That speaker, I understand no speaker is perfect for everybody, and it may not be to your taste, but you want a high-end experience, a high-end company, a company that does everything right, you can't find much better than MBL. Certainly if I'm doing everything from one brand and it's solid state, it's going to be MBL. There's really no other brand that does everything for solid state, from source all the way to speakers, that I can put ahead of that for a high-end experience, if I have cost no object budget. Okay. But yeah, kudos to them. They deserve all the accolades I'm giving them right now, and all the coverage I've given them. Now, another one that transformed their room, and that's where I'm giving this category right now, is who transformed their room. Because on other metrics, I might put them in there, my most disappointing. But OMA did a great job, Oswald Mills Audio, transforming that room like I've never seen before, almost like a cocktail lounge feel to it. End tables, chairs, not set up like a traditional room with the chairs, everything around it. You were really transported to a new environment, a really cool environment. Now, sound-wise and their speaker taste are just not mine. I mean, I'm not going to criticize it for everybody. That obviously some people it does resonate with, and certainly the aesthetic of their gear is cool and can be polarizing which way you want to go. But I can't get, for whatever reason, I don't get the sound of those horns. I've had experience with a couple of models now, not the bigger ones yet, so eventually I may change my tune. But kudos to them on transforming their environment as good as anybody's ever done at a show, and so they deserve an award just for that alone. Now, Other rooms that did equally well with very difficult environments, those slanted ceilings with all the glass, Magico. And I'm going to give it extra, points to Magico because Magico is, as you know, in California. This is not in their backyard. When you have to transport all that stuff to transform your room, all the room treatments to create a room within a room, and even flooring and everything, plus all the gear, get it through customs, have all these sweating, all these details, getting it over there. That's a company that's going the extra mile, putting a lot at risk, and they did a phenomenal job. Magico sounded great and created that room within a room. And there was other ones as well. I want to make sure I give them Magico, Kharma. They did a great job, but they're more European based and a little bit easier. Same thing with Marten, but still phenomenal job. And that's really the takeaway of those rooms. Still, those speakers and all that is even going to sound even better in a totally dedicated room. But for what they were able to do in a short amount of time and what they were given, really accentuated the sound of the speaker. They still won't be for everybody's taste. Point source box speakers, an array of drivers like that. Different people and the different types of drivers that they use, Marten and Kharma. I've had friends that have owned them, and some love them, some don't. But it's one of those speakers that you want to audition, and they did a great job of transforming the room. Stenheim, another one. I want to make sure I get them all. And I said Vitus. That was amazing. That room was well done, and the colors of the Vitus now in that black and white, much better to my taste than the gray that I've seen more traditionally. Really cool room. Glad. In fact, Hans pulled me out of the hallway into that room because I couldn't see. Some had their glass frosted or covered with stuff you couldn't see in, and very limited time frame I had. I didn't have time. Sometimes I just had to peek at what's in there, and I didn't see. And luckily, he pulled me in there, and very happy he did. It was a cool room. Now, a room that didn't do much at all was the Bacch room, but that's kind of intentional. When Bacch, Theoretical Applied Physics, as you know, I represent them, so I don't want to dominate this best of awards with that, but to tell you a few things about that, they intentionally don't bring a whole lot because what they're trying to show you is with directional speakers like he uses, the Jensens, and even MBLs, because we had quite a few people with MBLs at that table at dinner that also own the Bacch. But what it's showing is that the crosstalk cancellation can work in any environment. Now, it's better if you have treatments. The more you treatments, the better. But it's showing that you do not have to worry. You will still get the benefit of spatial cues regardless of your environment. Now, tonal balance, it can't fix that unless you're going to use the EQ that's embedded as an option in the Bacch. And actually, that's one thing I noticed the first day in the room. I said, this doesn't sound right. And I knew the room was goofy, so I said, it's probably the room. He probably should have brought some treatments and bass traps to address that. But then I sent him a text later. I said, hey, you might want to at least use the EQ because something didn't sound right with the bass, a little boomy and just a little bit too heavy. Well, it turns out he was using a new speaker from Jensen that was custom made, and it had on the back a bass boost button for an extra 3 dB for certain rooms when it's needed, and that was accidentally pushed in. And so when Edgar took that out, then all of a sudden, much better. Still, tonal balance, you're going to get better when you have a dedicated room with treatments. But in terms of spatial cues, and one thing he did many times at this show was prove to people the Bacch is not a gimmick. People think, oh, it's too different, and I don't like it too close, or this and the other. That's fine. You like what you like. But which is more accurate? What he's proven is when you put those mics in your ear, he will turn the room into a recording studio. He will talk to you at 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whisper in your ears, then play that recording back on the speakers with and without the Bacch on, and then you can tell which one is more accurate and which one really is the gimmick. The gimmick is what we've been listening to for decades. Crosstalk cancellation, collapsing the sound stage, heavily dense sound in the middle, and mostly in between the speakers with very limited depth. That's the gimmick. Which reality is, as he proves to constantly at these shows, and that demo is especially effective, is that the reality is the Bacch presents you reality. So, and he actually won over a Stereophile reviewer. Stereophile's already released a preview that they really liked it, but I think they've requested a sample from him to review. And of course, Andrew Quint with Absolute Sound's already a believer. And like I said, many MBL Extreme owners even use it. So, and I probably sold, I think I got 4 or 5 people of the big box in the hopper, several Bacch for Max. Those of you that took advantage of the discount code, yeah, that only happens a couple times a year, and there's no other shows that he's planning on going to. So kudos to you guys who did that. Going to have a lot of installs coming up. So want to talk about somebody else though besides Bacch, because I'm going to have plenty of videos. I'm going to do an actual Zoom with Edgar in the future, talking about the Mark III that he just released at of the Bacch and what the differences are. So you're going to hear it straight from his mouth. Now, some other category is speakers that I've always wanted to hear, or ones that I found that I never had heard of before or didn't know much about. And as I said on my preview show, that Kaiser makes Panzerholz speakers. Panzerholz is the material, almost a bulletproof type of plywood. Very non-resonant, very strong. You can't even drill into it after. It has to be CNC'd out, originally where the drivers are going to be and the holes and everything. But man, when you hear the non-resonant characteristics of it, plus you hear a speaker with it, very impressive. I was actually hoping that room was always so packed, so I didn't really get the sweet spot and get a true impression, but very impressive overall. And I went in there twice. I really wanted to hear the smaller ones where they were using the purified driver. That's killer stuff too. So I still have more to learn from the Kaiser side, but what I heard was very impressive. And again, big props to them for using Panzerholz, which very few manufacturers use. Definitely a material I hope more would use in the future. Estelon with their Aura, they did a nice room. It was not overly treated, but for the room size and the model that they came out with in that beautiful black and white, it was very impressive, enjoyable just to listen to. Now, $18,000, I think the price was, so much more affordable than their other models, and you get that beautiful work of art. I mean, part of what you're paying is making that cabinet is not cheap, okay? So getting high-level performance, the pedigree, some of the trickle down, they're not using the Accuton drivers and stuff like that. And certainly certain size rooms, you're going to want to go up the line. And certainly if you have cost no object budget, you want that Estelon Extreme Mark II. That's a killer speaker, as you heard at Expona. But for people that want to get a taste and get that beautiful cabinet, quality sound all throughout the range, top to bottom, and a family-owned company that, again, I look at the people behind the company where I'm giving money, and I'm happy to pay extra to those quality companies with quality people behind it. And as you see with Inakustik, Edgar, Magico, you've seen me bring these kind of people to your attention, and there's a reason for it. There's some people I don't. And fortunately at this show, there wasn't too many of those people. And usually it's not even the brands that I don't like. It's sometimes the distributors that I don't like. And I don't bother with those kind of people. Thankfully there's only a few, but I like to showcase the people that I think you guys should know more about and feel proud to own their products, proud to give them your hard-earned money, because that makes a difference, at least to me. And so for those of you, that's a little bit behind my awards, is the people behind it as well. Now, another one that I didn't know anything about, well, I did actually hear them at Rocky Mountain, AudioNec, NEC. They're modular boxes, and then a super tweeter, and then a ribbon style tweeter. Very innovative design on rails. And this was my probably second time hearing them, but probably my first time genuinely getting to hear them for a long time. I went into that room a couple times, and he also does servers more like I do. He has a video card. He puts a lot of effort into that thing was huge, mega chassis. It's not going to fit in some stamped aluminum chassis like you get these servers nowadays. Everything crammed in there, no heat dissipation at all, just terrible for reliability purposes and, high level performance. Those processors and the stuff you get now is a joke, total joke. So kudos to him on that alone. But the room sounded great. I was glad to hear that speaker, and I definitely will check them out more in the future. Western Electric, that speaker with the Airblade technology tweeter and the mid-range, and then even the woofer. I got the brochure. I still got to go through it to understand that. So I'm probably premature in even telling you anything more about it. Then it was impressive, very impressive. That top end and mid-range was really impressive. The room was a room created in a big conference area. Everything about it should be better in a dedicated room, but man, that was impressive. And I went in there a couple times. It was packed the whole time. And then, of course, the electronics for Western Electric are killer too. Killer looking, got that pedigree of 300B that a lot of people just legendary. People swear by it. I haven't been one of those that swear by fleet-wide 300B amps and whatnot, but they were making a believer of me in that show, mating it with their speaker and that ecosystem, top notch. One thing that I had on my list that I wanted to hear was the demo of the Perlisten home theater with Dirac and this new Dirac algorithm. I uploaded the video. I recorded the whole presentation, like 20 minutes, but YouTube blocked it because there was stuff like Maverick, movie scenes, all these things that get blocked by YouTube. So I'm going to edit that into a little bit, try to get the copyright problems out of that and upload it. But quite frankly, I probably should put that at the end of this on the more disappointing things. I was expecting a lot. It didn't sound bad, but quite frankly, I like my home theater here better with just 5.2 than what I heard there. And that was a big expense putting that together. But again, when you're trying to create a home theater inside these rooms, very difficult to do. It just didn't wow me for whatever reason, like I was hoping it would. Actually, the speaker that wowed me in that room was across they had two rooms within a room, the Meridian DSP-based new model. Man, killer. I've always been a fan of Meridian speakers since in the 1990s. I remember going to a dealer and lusting after that because they were doing active and DSP way back then, doing it right, setting the standard where now so many people are copying and finally getting around to doing it. And now they've just come out with a new iteration. So Meridian, it was very impressive. And I wouldn't have thought that going in. I would have thought the Perlisten home theater was going to wow me more. But no, surprise, sharing that with you. Another one that was a surprise to a lot of people at the show, but I've seen them before. That ESD, everybody's talking about these huge horns from China, all these massive things, $3 million, whatever. They're so surprised by this, but they came to Rocky Mountain several times in the past. I remember seeing them. Same exact setup, the Connect 4 of 20-something pieces of electronics that you can play Connect 4 on this rack system. It's just insane. Very impressive looking. I don't get it with sound and all. It's just not practical. I just don't get it, but it's cool. And I've seen it before. I'm glad a lot of people, this is their first time seeing it and were wowed by it, whatever. I just don't get it, and I don't have any hate for China. It's just that I don't get that ridiculous size and amount of electronics and what the purpose is. And anyway, I'll leave it at that.